I stood in my childhood kitchen, staring at the glossy brochure for a 5-star Maui resort spread across the granite countertop. My mother had just finished explaining how she was sending my younger sister Amanda there for 2 weeks, all expenses paid, to celebrate her promotion. When I asked why I never got anything for my achievements, she patted my hand like I was still a child and said, "You'll understand when you're older, sweetheart. Amanda needs this more than you did." Something inside me snapped clean in half. I pulled my apartment key from my pocket, placed it gently on the table, and walked out the door without looking back. The drive back to my apartment felt like moving through water. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white, but I barely registered the highway or the other cars around me. 28 years old. That's how old I was. And I was still waiting for my parents to see me as more than an afterthought. The memories came flooding back without permission. I was 17 again, sitting in the audience at my high school graduation, watching my parents check their watches every 5 minutes. They left before the ceremony ended because Amanda had a dance recital across town. She was 13 then. I told myself it didn't matter, that graduation was just a formality anyway. Then there was my college acceptance letter. Full ride to Drexel University for engineering. I'd worked 3 jobs my senior year to save money for expenses the scholarship wouldn't cover. My mother glanced at the letter for maybe 10 seconds before asking if I'd heard that Amanda made the cheerleading squad. My father was already on the phone, probably calling relatives to brag about Amanda's accomplishment. 4 years of college, and I can count on one hand the number of times my parents visited. I was 2 hours away in Philadelphia, but they were always too busy. Amanda had soccer games. Amanda had competitions. Amanda needed help with college applications. I graduated with honors, landed a job at a respected engineering firm, and my parents took us all to dinner at Olive Garden. They spent the entire meal talking about Amanda's upcoming graduation from high school. When I won the regional engineering competition 3 years ago, complete with a $10,000 prize and recognition from the governor, my father's first question was whether I'd heard Amanda made captain of her college cheerleading squad. The pattern had always been there, woven into the fabric of my entire life. I just kept telling myself it would change, that eventually they'd see me, really see me. I parked in front of my apartment building, a modest complex in the Fishtown neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd signed the lease 5 years ago when I got my first real paycheck, determined to build a life independent of my parents' help, or lack thereof. Inside my 1-bedroom apartment, I stood in the center of the living room and looked around. IKEA furniture I'd assembled myself. Bookshelves lined with engineering textbooks and science fiction novels. A small kitchen where I'd taught myself to cook. Everything here I'd earned. I pulled out my laptop and opened my bank account. $43,217.63. 5 years of saving, of living below my means, of skipping vacations and driving my beat-up Honda Civic instead of buying something nicer. Every dollar represented a choice, a sacrifice, a piece of my future. My phone started buzzing. First my mother. "Where did you go? Come back. We need to talk about your attitude." Then my father. "Your mother is very upset. Stop being dramatic and come back to discuss this like an adult." Finally, Amanda. "Seriously? Are you really that jealous? Grow up." I set the phone face down on the coffee table and opened a new browser tab. Denver. I'd always wanted to see Colorado. My college roommate, Marcus, had moved there 4 years ago and constantly sent me photos of the mountains and the tech scene. He worked for a software company and mentioned they were always looking for engineers. Austin was another option. Seattle. Portland. Cities far enough from Philadelphia that my family couldn't just drop by whenever they felt like it. By midnight, I had 3 phone interviews scheduled. One with a firm in Denver, one in Austin, and one with a startup in Seattle. My resume was strong. My recommendations were solid. I had options. I fell asleep on the couch, still dressed. my phone continuing to buzz with increasingly frantic messages I refused to read. The next morning, I woke up to 17 new messages and 4 missed calls. I ignored all of them and made coffee, then logged into my bank account to start transferring money into a new account my parents couldn't access. The screen loaded. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. Account frozen. Contact your local branch for more information. I called the bank immediately. A cheerful representative named Karen told me to hold. Then another voice, older and more cautious, came on the line. "Mr. Harrison, this is Mrs. Patterson, the branch manager. I see your account has been locked at the request of one of the account holders." "What? What account holder?" "I'm the only person on this account." There was a pause. "According to our records, your mother, Patricia Harrison, is listed as a joint account holder. The account was opened when you were 17, and she was never removed." The coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. I stared at the brown liquid spreading across the tile. "She can't do that. That's my money. I understand your frustration, Mr. Harrison, but as a joint account holder, she has equal rights to manage the account. If you'd like to remove her, you'll need both signatures or a court order." I hung up and immediately called my mother. She answered on the first ring. "Nicolas, sweetheart, I'm glad you're calling. We really need to talk about yesterday. Unfreeze my bank account. Now." "Oh, honey, I can't do that. Not until you come home and we discuss your behavior. You walked out in the middle of a family conversation. That was incredibly rude and hurtful. That's my money. You have no right. I have every right. I'm your mother, and I'm doing this for your own good. You're clearly not thinking straight. When you calm down and apologize, we can talk about unfreezing the account." "Apologize? For what?" "For your childish tantrum. For making your sister feel bad about her success. For being selfish and ungrateful after everything your father and I have done for you." I actually laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. "Everything you've done for me? Like what exactly? We raised you. We gave you a home, food, clothes, everything you needed. And this is how you repay us? By walking out and making a scene? You gave Amanda a 2-week vacation to Maui. You paid for her entire college education. You bought her a car when she turned 16. What did I get? You got the same opportunities. It's not our fault you were too proud to ask for help. Amanda has always been more open about her needs. You were always so independent. We thought that's what you wanted. The logic was so twisted I couldn't even process it. Unfreeze my account, Mom. Come home and apologize. Then we'll talk." She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by broken ceramic and spilled coffee, and realized my mother had just declared war. I spent the morning cleaning up the broken mug and digging through my apartment for cash. I found $792 in various hiding spots. Emergency money I'd stashed over the years. Not enough to relocate and survive while job hunting. At 10 o'clock, I drove to the bank. Mrs. Patterson met with me in her office, a small room with fake plants and motivational posters. She was sympathetic but firm. "I wish I could help you, Mr. Harrison, but my hands are tied. Your mother is a legal account holder. To remove her, we need both signatures or a court order from a judge." "How long does a court order take? With scheduling and processing?" 4 to 6 weeks. Minimum. 6 weeks. I had enough cash for maybe 2 weeks if I was careful. I left the bank and called Marcus. He answered on the third ring, sounding distracted. "Nicolas, hey man, what's up? I need a favor. A big one." 20 minutes later, I'd explained the situation. Marcus didn't hesitate. "I can lend you $2,000. It's not much, but it'll help. I'll pay you back as soon as I get access to my account." "I know you will. I'll Venmo it now." The money appeared in my Venmo account within minutes. It wasn't enough to relocate, but it bought me time. I needed to confront my parents face to face. Maybe if I showed up and made them see reason, They'd unfreeze the account and I could leave on my own terms. The drive to their house in the suburbs took 30 minutes. The sprawling colonial where I grew up looked exactly the same. Perfectly manicured lawn, two-car garage, American flag hanging by the front door. My father's Lexus and my mother's BMW sat in the driveway. Amanda's Volkswagen Beetle, bought and paid for by our parents, was parked on the street. I rang the doorbell. My father answered, arms already crossed. Nicolas. Dad, I need to talk to Mom. She's very upset with you. She froze my bank account. My money. She's trying to protect you from making a rash decision. Come inside. Let's discuss this calmly. I followed him into the living room. My mother sat on the cream-colored sofa, tissues in her lap, eyes red. Amanda perched on the armchair, phone in hand, smirking slightly. Nicholas, sweetheart. My mother stood and moved toward me like she was going to hug me. I stepped back. Unfreeze my account. Sit down. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. That's my money. Unfreeze it. My father moved to stand beside my mother. A united front. You don't get to make demands, son. You walked out of here yesterday without any explanation. You owe your mother an apology. An apology? For what? For being rude. For making your sister feel guilty about her success. For acting like a spoiled child. I turned to Amanda. Did I make you feel guilty? She shrugged, not looking up from her phone. I mean, you kind of threw a fit over nothing. It's just a vacation. Right, just a vacation. That cost what, $15,000? My mother gasped. How dare you put a price on your sister's happiness? I'm not putting a price on anything. I'm asking why she gets $15,000 for getting promoted to assistant manager, and I got nothing when I won a regional engineering competition with the governor in attendance. That was different. You didn't need anything. You had a good job, a nice apartment. Amanda was struggling. She was struggling? She lives at home rent-free. You pay her car insurance. You pay her phone bill. She works part-time at a store your friend owns. She's finding herself. She needs support. And I didn't? My mother's expression shifted to something harder. You were always so independent. You never asked for help. You made it clear you didn't need us. The accusation hit like a slap. I never asked because you never offered. Every time I accomplished something, you changed the subject to Amanda. Every time I needed you, you were busy with her. That's not true. But my mother's voice wavered. It is true. And you know it. My father stepped forward. That's enough. Your mother did the best she could. We both did. If you can't see that, then maybe you need some time to grow up and gain perspective. I'm leaving Philadelphia, with or without my money, but I am leaving. My father's face hardened. If you walk out that door without apologizing to your mother and your sister, don't expect anything from us ever again. No help, no family, no inheritance, nothing. I don't want your inheritance. I just want my own money that I earned. Then you'll have to wait until your mother is ready to release it. And she won't be ready until you show some maturity and remorse. I looked at my mother. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue but said nothing. I looked at Amanda. She was scrolling through Instagram, barely paying attention. I looked at my father. He stood rigid, jaw set, waiting for me to back down. I walked out. Behind me, I heard my mother wail. See what you've done? You've driven him away. But she was talking to me, not to herself. I drove back to my apartment and started making calls. I needed a lawyer. I needed a job. I needed to get out of Philadelphia before my family destroyed me completely. Marcus called that afternoon. Hey, you can crash with me for a while if you need to. My couch is yours. Are you sure? What about Sarah? Sarah was Marcus's girlfriend. They'd been living together for 2 years. I already asked her. She said it's fine. Just get out here. I bought a bus ticket to Denver, leaving in 3 days. I hired a lawyer named Mr. Brennan, who specialized in family financial disputes. He charged $200 an hour, but promised he could get a court order within 4 weeks. My phone interview with the Denver company went well. Really well. The hiring manager, a woman named Susan, seemed impressed with my portfolio. She said they'd been looking for someone with my exact experience for months. She scheduled a second interview with the senior team for the following week. For the first time since walking out of my parents' house, I felt hope. The second interview was even better. They asked technical questions I answered easily. They asked about my approach to problem solving, to teamwork, to handling pressure. Everything clicked. At the end of the call, Susan said, "We're very interested. We'll be in touch by the end of the week." I started packing my apartment. Not much. Clothes, books, my laptop, a few personal items. Everything else could be sold or donated. I was starting fresh. 3 days later, I got the email. "Dear Mr. Harrison, thank you for your interest in the senior engineering position. After careful consideration, we have decided to move forward with other candidates. We received some concerning information during our reference check process that we cannot overlook. We wish you the best in your future endeavors." I read it 3 times before it sank in. Reference check. But I'd only listed 3 references, all former colleagues who I knew would give glowing recommendations. I called Susan immediately. She sounded uncomfortable. "Mr. Harrison, I can't really discuss the specifics. Please, I need to know what happened. Those references would never say anything negative." There was a long pause. "We received a call from someone claiming to be your former supervisor at a previous position. She said you'd been terminated for embezzlement and were currently under investigation. Given the nature of our government contracts, we can't take any risks with candidates who have potential criminal backgrounds." My blood ran cold. "Who called you?" "I shouldn't say." "Please." Another pause. "A Patricia Harrison. She said she was your supervisor at Harrison Engineering Consultants." My mother. My mother had called the company, pretended to be my boss at a fake company with our last name, and accused me of embezzlement. That woman is my mother. She's lying to sabotage me. I've never been investigated for anything. I can provide real references, background checks, anything you need. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison, but we've already filled the position. I wish you the best." She hung up. I sat on my couch in my half-packed apartment and realized my mother wasn't just holding my money hostage. She was actively destroying any chance I had of building a new life. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was war. I called my mother immediately. She answered cheerfully. "Nicolas, sweetheart, are you ready to come home and talk? You called my job interview. You lied about me being fired and investigated for embezzlement. I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You called yourself Patricia Harrison from Harrison Engineering. You told them I was a criminal." A long silence. "Then, I did what I had to do to protect you." "Protect me? You destroyed a job opportunity. You're not thinking clearly. You're trying to run away instead of facing your problems. When you calm down and come home, I'll call them back and explain it was a misunderstanding. You'll call them back right now and tell them the truth." "No, not until you apologize and come home. This is for your own good, Nicholas. You'll understand when you're older." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Over the next 2 weeks, I applied to 14 more positions. I made it to the final interview stage with 2 companies, one in Austin and one in Seattle. Both times, after everything seemed perfect, I received sudden rejection emails citing concerns from reference checks. I started using Marcus as my primary reference and got a Google Voice number my mother didn't know. I stopped listing my previous address. I became paranoid about every application, wondering if somehow my mother would find it and ruin it. My lawyer, Mr. Brennan, finally got a court date scheduled. 6 weeks from now. 6 weeks of living off borrowed money, sleeping on Marcus's couch in Denver, and watching every opportunity slip through my fingers. Marcus and his girlfriend Sarah were saints. Sarah worked as a nurse and was gone most days. Marcus worked from home and gave me space to job hunt, but I could feel the strain. They needed their apartment back. They needed their privacy. I was a guest who'd overstayed his welcome. After 4 weeks, Sarah finally pulled me aside. She was kind, but firm. "Nicolas, I'm really sorry, but we need our space back. I know you're in a tough spot, but we can't keep doing this. We need to be able to relax in our own home." "I understand. I'll find somewhere else. There's a cheap motel about 3 miles from here. $80 a week. It's not great, but it's something." I moved into the motel 2 days later. The room smelled like mold and old cigarettes. The carpet was stained. The bathroom faucet dripped constantly, but it was private, and it was cheap enough that I could survive until my court date. I sent out applications every single day. 30, 40, sometimes 50 applications. Most went unanswered. Some led to phone screens that went nowhere. I was running out of money, running out of options, running out of hope. The court date finally arrived. I put on my only suit, drove to the courthouse in my Honda Civic that was making concerning noises, and met Mr. Brennan outside the courtroom. "Remember, let me do the talking. Stay calm. Don't get emotional." My mother arrived with her own lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. Amanda wasn't with her. Neither was my father. The judge, an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, reviewed the case files. "Miss Harrison, you froze your son's bank account because you believed he was making a rash decision?" My mother's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client was concerned for her son's mental state. He walked out of a family gathering without explanation and announced he was leaving the state. She froze the account to protect his assets until he could think more clearly." The judge looked at me. "Mr. Harrison, why did you leave?" I stood. "Your Honor, my family has a long history of favoritism toward my sister. They announced they were sending her on a $15,000 vacation after giving her a car, paying for her college, and providing numerous other benefits they never offered me. When I questioned the inequality, they dismissed my concerns. I decided to relocate for my own mental health. Do you have evidence of this inequality?" Mr. Brennan presented documents, bank statements showing the car purchase for Amanda, tuition payment records, credit card statements for the vacation, my own college loan documents showing I'd paid my own way, character references from colleagues and friends attesting to my stability and competence. My mother's lawyer argued that she had a right to spend her money how she chose, and that as a joint account holder, she had every right to manage the account. The judge cut him off. "Mr. Harrison is 28 years old. This account contains his earnings, not family funds. Miss Harrison may be a joint account holder, but the money belongs to her son. Unless you have evidence of mental incapacity or danger to himself, you have no grounds to freeze his access to his own earnings." She ruled in my favor. The account would be unfrozen immediately. I almost cried with relief. At the bank that afternoon, I logged into my account for the first time in over 2 months. The balance read $9,312.18. I stared at the number, not understanding. Then I pulled up the transaction history. Withdrawals, dozens of them. 3,000 here, 5,000 there, 2,000, 8,000. All marked with notes like family medical emergency, loan repayment to parents, gift to Amanda, household expenses. My mother had systematically drained my account over the past 2 months, taking everything except the minimum legal balance to avoid fraud charges. $33,688. Gone. I called Mr. Brennan immediately. "She took all my money. Can we sue?" "We can try, but it'll take months and cost thousands in legal fees. Since she was a legal account holder, proving theft will be difficult. She'll claim they were legitimate shared expenses. They weren't shared. That was my money, I believe you, but proving it in court is another matter. You'd be looking at a year-long legal battle with no guarantee of recovery. I closed the account that day and transferred the remaining $9,000 to a new account at a different bank. 5 years of saving, nearly destroyed because I'd never removed my mother from a joint account I'd opened as a teenager. I drove back to my motel room and sat on the stained bedspread in the dark. I'd lost everything. My family, my savings, my sense of security. I was living in a moldy motel room in Denver, barely surviving on what little money I had left. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Hi. Is this Nicholas Harrison? Yes. This is Jennifer Martinez from Peterson and Associates in Seattle. I'm a recruiter, and I found your resume through a professional engineering network. I'd love to talk to you about a position we're trying to fill. I sat up straight. I'm listening. We have a senior engineering position on a government infrastructure contract. It requires expertise in structural analysis and assessment, which I see is your specialty. The position pays $127,000 a year, plus a $15,000 signing bonus and full relocation assistance. We need someone to start within 2 weeks. Are you interested? I couldn't breathe. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Great. Can you do a phone interview tomorrow morning? Yes. Perfect. I'll send you the details. We've already done preliminary background checks through the professional network, so this should move quickly. We're desperate to fill this position. She hung up. I sat in the dark motel room, holding my phone, afraid to believe it was real. The interview happened the next morning, then another interview, then a third. They checked my references through professional channels my mother couldn't access. They ran a real background check that showed I had no criminal record, no investigations, nothing but a clean professional history. 5 days later, they offered me the position. The contract arrived via email. It was real. It was legitimate. It was my way out. I signed it immediately. Seattle was cold and gray when I arrived, but it felt like freedom. Peterson and Associates had arranged temporary housing while I apartment hunted. They'd wired the signing bonus, which covered my debts to Marcus and gave me breathing room. For the first time in 3 months, I could exhale. The job was intense but fulfilling. I worked with a team of structural engineers assessing bridge infrastructure across the Pacific Northwest. My supervisor, Carol, was brilliant and direct. She recognized talent and gave responsibility accordingly. Within 2 weeks, she assigned me to lead a sub-team on a major assessment project. I found a 1-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. Nothing fancy, but it had hardwood floors, big windows, and was entirely mine. No parents, no sister, no history, just me, and a future I could build on my own terms. I sent Marcus $500 every month to repay him, despite his protests that it wasn't necessary. He'd saved my life. The least I could do was honor my debts. My family kept trying to contact me. My mother's messages evolved from angry to manipulative. Your sister is getting married, and you're not even here. What kind of brother are you? Amanda sent wedding invitations to my old Philadelphia address, knowing I wouldn't receive them. My father sent occasional texts. Your mother cries every night because of you. I hope you're satisfied. I blocked all their numbers. Work consumed me in the best way. I was good at what I did, and people noticed. 3 months in, I received a promotion and a raise to $143,000. 6 months in, my paper on innovative structural integrity assessment methods was accepted for publication in a major engineering journal. I was invited to present at a national conference in Chicago. Life was finally working. I was finally winning. Then, on a Tuesday evening in March, I came home from work to find my mother sitting in my apartment building's lobby. She looked older than I remembered, smaller. Her hair had more gray. She stood when she saw me, and tears immediately filled her eyes. "Nicolas, sweetheart, how did you find me?" "Amanda's wedding invitation. The postal service forwarded it to your new address. Please, can we talk?" "No. Your father is sick. He needs you." Something in her voice sounded off. "What's wrong with him?" "His heart. The doctors say it's serious. He keeps asking for you." I knew it was probably a lie, but doubt crept in. What if it was true? "I'm not coming back to Philadelphia. I'm not asking you to come back. I just want to talk. Please. 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her follow me up to my apartment. She sat on my couch and looked around like she was cataloging everything. "You've done well for yourself. What do you want, Mom?" "I want my son back. I want my family whole again. Amanda is devastated you won't be at her wedding. Your father asks about you constantly, and I miss you so much it hurts. You froze my bank account. You stole $30,000. You called my employers and lied about me being a criminal. I was trying to protect you. From what? From making a mistake. From throwing away your family over a misunderstanding. You were always so sensitive about Amanda. I didn't realize how deep it went. It's not about being sensitive. It's about being invisible. You are never invisible to us. We love you just as much as we love Amanda. You have a funny way of showing it." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. Her face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I handled it wrong. I see that now. But please, can't we move past this? Can't we be a family again? You didn't just handle it wrong. You tried to destroy my life. I was scared. You were leaving, and I didn't know how to stop you. I made terrible choices, but I'm your mother, and I love you, and I'm begging you to forgive me." For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. Then she said it. "You'll understand someday when you have children of your own. Sometimes you have to make hard choices. Sometimes you have to be tough to protect the people you love. Amanda needed us more than you did. You were always so strong, so independent. We knew you'd be okay." The moment shattered. "Get out. Nicolas, please, get out of my apartment right now. You're being unreasonable." "I'm being unreasonable? You stole from me. You lied about me. You tried to sabotage my career. And you still think you were right. I was trying to help you. By destroying me? That's help?" She stood, tears streaming down her face. "Fine. Be stubborn. But when you finally grow up and realize what you've thrown away, don't come crying to me." She left. I locked the door behind her and stood there shaking. 2 days later, my supervisor, Carol, called me into her office. She looked uncomfortable. "Nicolas, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. I received a phone call yesterday from someone claiming to be your former employer in Philadelphia. They said you'd been terminated for professional misconduct and that there's an ongoing investigation. They provided specific details about a project you supposedly mishandled that led to structural failures." My stomach dropped. "That's a lie. I've never been terminated. I've never had any complaints or investigations. I didn't think so. Your work here has been exemplary. But company policy requires I report this to HR and that we conduct an investigation. You're being placed on administrative leave, pending the outcome. My mother made that call. She's been sabotaging me for months. I can prove it. I believe you. But I have to follow protocol. HR will be in touch." I was escorted from the building that afternoon. My security clearance for the government contract was suspended. Everything I'd built in 6 months was crumbling. My mother had found me, and she was escalating. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my apartment staring at the ceiling, cycling between rage and despair. My mother had tracked me down and was systematically destroying my new life, just like she'd destroyed my escape from Philadelphia. But something was different this time. I wasn't the desperate, broke man sleeping in a motel. I had resources. I had evidence. And I was done running. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but Miss Patricia Whitmore, a Seattle attorney who specialized in workplace defamation and family law. Her website listed cases she'd won against vindictive family members. Her fees were steep, but I had the money now. She met with me that afternoon in her downtown office. I spent 2 hours laying out everything: the frozen bank account, the stolen money, the sabotaged job opportunities in Denver and Austin, the lies to Peterson and Associates. I showed her bank statements, emails, text messages, recordings of phone calls, witness statements from Marcus. Miss Whitmore listened to everything, taking notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Mr. Harrison, your mother has committed multiple actionable offenses: defamation, theft, fraud, interference with business relationships. We have grounds for a substantial civil lawsuit. I want to file it. All of it. It's going to get ugly. Family lawsuits always do. Are you prepared for that?" "She's already made it ugly. I'm just fighting back." "Then let's do this." We spent the next week building the case. Miss Whitmore subpoenaed phone records showing calls from my mother's number to my prospective employers. We compiled documentation of every withdrawal from my bank account. We gathered character witnesses who could attest to my professionalism and stability. We built an airtight case. While Miss Whitmore worked on the lawsuit, I tackled the situation at Peterson and Associates. I contacted their legal department directly with comprehensive evidence that the reference call was fraudulent. Phone records showing it came from my mother's number. Proof of my actual employment history with references who could verify I'd never been terminated. Documentation of the ongoing pattern of harassment. Carol, my supervisor, went to bat for me internally. She presented my flawless work record to the executive team. She vouched for my character. She argued that the company was being manipulated by a malicious third party. The company's investigation took 3 days. On Friday afternoon, I received a call from the head of HR. "Mr. Harrison, we've concluded that the reference call was fraudulent and malicious. We're reinstating you immediately with full back pay for the time you were on leave. We're also issuing a formal apology. Your security clearance will be restored by Monday." I almost cried with relief. "Thank you." We've also contacted the Philadelphia Police Department to report the incident as identity fraud and defamation. They'll be following up. That evening, Miss Whitmore called. "The lawsuit is ready to file. Civil court, multiple counts: defamation, theft, fraud, intentional interference with business relationships, and emotional distress. We're suing for full restitution of stolen funds with interest, damages for lost job opportunities, emotional distress damages, and attorney's fees. Total claim, $97,000. Do it." The court summons arrived at my parents' house 3 days later. My mother called immediately, hysterical. "How could you do this to your own mother? You're suing me? You stole from me. You lied about me. You tried to destroy my career. What did you think would happen? I was trying to help you." "No. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. Your father is furious. He wants to countersue for emotional distress. Let him try. We have documented evidence of everything you've done." She was crying now. "Please, Nicolas, don't do this. Don't destroy this family. You destroyed this family. I'm just making you pay for it." Amanda called next. She was screaming before I even said hello. "You are ruining my wedding planning with this drama. Do you have any idea how selfish you are? Mom is a wreck. Dad is threatening to cancel paying for the wedding. All because you can't let go of your stupid grudges." "My stupid grudges? Amanda, they stole $30,000 from me. It's family money. They're allowed to use it. It was my money that I earned, that I saved. God, you're so dramatic. Everything is always about you. You know what? I don't want you at my wedding anyway. You'd just ruin it." She hung up. I blocked her number too. My father sent one text. "You will regret this. Family is everything. and you've chosen money over your own blood." I didn't respond. The legal process ground forward. Discovery began, and it was brutal. Phone records, bank statements, emails, depositions. My mother's lawyer tried to settle quietly, offering to return $15,000 if I dropped everything. Miss Whitmore looked at me. "It's your decision. No settlement. I want every penny, and I want it on record what they did." The depositions were scheduled for late May. I flew back to Philadelphia for 3 days of legal hell. My mother's deposition was first. She sat across from Miss Whitmore in a conference room, my parents' lawyer beside her, and answered questions under oath. "Miss Harrison, did you make phone calls to your son's prospective employers?" "I did." "Did you identify yourself as his former supervisor?" A pause. "Yes." "Did you tell these employers that your son had been terminated for cause and was under investigation?" "I told them I had concerns about his stability." "Did you tell them he'd been terminated for embezzlement?" Another pause. "I may have used that word. Was any of that true?" "I was concerned for his well-being." "That's not what I asked." "Was your son ever terminated from a job?" "No." "Was he ever under investigation for embezzlement or any other crime?" "No." "So you lied to his prospective employers." "I was trying to protect him from making a mistake." Miss Whitmore presented the bank records. "You withdrew $33,000 from your son's account over a 2-month period. Where did that money go?" "Family expenses." "Can you provide receipts or documentation of these expenses?" "I don't have to justify how I spend money from an account I'm legally authorized to access. The court has already ruled that money belonged to your son. So I'll ask again. Where did the money go?" My mother's lawyer whispered something to her. She shifted in her seat. "Some went to household bills. Some went to help Amanda with wedding expenses." "How much went to Amanda?" "I don't remember exactly. Approximately. Maybe 15 or 20,000. Miss Whitmore pulled out more documents. Bank records showing direct deposits into Amanda's account. "According to these records, you transferred $27,000 to your daughter. That's not household bills." My mother said nothing. Amanda's deposition was next. She was hostile from the start. "Did you know your mother was transferring money from your brother's account to yours?" "I knew she was helping me with wedding expenses." "Did you know that money came from your brother's savings?" "She said it was family money." "Did you ask her where it came from?" "Why would I? She's my mother." "Did your mother tell you she'd frozen your brother's bank account?" Amanda shifted. "She mentioned it." "What did she say?" "That Nicolas was being irrational, and she was protecting him." "Did you think that was appropriate?" "I thought it was between them." "Did you encourage your mother to call your brother's employers?" A long pause. "I may have suggested she should let them know he was going through some personal issues. You encouraged her to sabotage his job opportunities." "I didn't think of it like that." "How did you think of it?" "I thought she was helping him." The evidence was damning. The pattern was clear. My mother and sister had conspired to steal my money, sabotage my career, and control my life. My father's deposition showed he'd been largely passive but complicit, believing my mother's narrative that I was having some kind of breakdown and needed tough love. After the depositions, my parents' lawyers pushed hard for settlement. They knew a jury would destroy them. The settlement negotiations took place in Miss Whitmore's conference room. My parents' lawyer, my mother, Amanda, and her lawyer on one side, Miss Whitmore and me on the other. Miss Whitmore laid out the terms. Full restitution of $33,688 with 5% interest, calculated at $35,372. Damages for 3 sabotage job opportunities at $10,000 each, total $30,000. Emotional distress damages at $15,000. Legal fees at $16,628. Total settlement, $97,000. My parents' lawyer countered. My clients are willing to offer $40,000 to resolve this matter and avoid the expense and publicity of a trial. Unacceptable. $50,000. Final offer. Miss Whitmore looked at me. I shook my head. Mr. Harrison declines. Full amount, or we go to trial. My mother spoke up. We don't have that kind of money. Then you'll need to find it. Take a loan against your house. Liquidate investments. Sell assets. That's not our concern. Amanda's lawyer tried to negotiate Amanda's portion down. My client was unaware the money was improperly obtained. She shouldn't be held liable for her mother's actions. Miss Whitmore smiled coldly. Your client's deposition shows she knew exactly where the money came from and encouraged the sabotage. She's equally liable. The negotiations went back and forth for hours. My parents' lawyer tried every angle. Reduce the emotional distress damages. Remove the job opportunity damages. Lower the interest rate. Split the legal fees. Miss Whitmore rejected everything. Full amount or trial. Your choice. Finally, facing the reality of a trial where all their actions would become public record, where Amanda's friends and extended family would see exactly what they'd done, where the evidence would destroy any claim of good intentions, they agreed. $97,000. Payment structured over 6 months. Legally binding, with severe penalties for missed payments including wage garnishment and property liens. I signed the settlement agreement. So did my mother and Amanda. Walking out of that conference room felt like walking out of prison. The first payment arrived 2 weeks later, $67,000. My mother had taken a second mortgage on the house. Amanda had canceled her Bali honeymoon and scaled her wedding back to a courthouse ceremony with a restaurant reception. She posted about it on social media, painting herself as a victim of her cruel brother who ruined her special day. Some of her friends believed her. But then my lawyer sent a cease and desist letter, along with select excerpts from the depositions showing exactly what she'd done. The posts came down. The narrative changed. Extended family members who'd only heard my parents' side started reaching out to hear mine. I didn't respond to most of them. The ones who'd known me my whole life and still believed I was the problem weren't worth my time. My father sent one final text. I hope you're happy now. You've destroyed this family over money. I finally responded. You destroyed this family by making me invisible for 28 years. The money is just the receipt. He didn't text back. Life in Seattle continued. The settlement payments came every month like clockwork. I paid off Marcus fully, adding an extra $35,000 because he'd saved my life and refused repayment. He tried to refuse the extra. I insisted. You gave me a place to stay when I had nothing. You lent me money when my own family robbed me. This isn't charity, it's recognition. He cried when he accepted it. I donated $20,000 to a nonprofit that helped young adults escape toxic family situations. I knew what it felt like to be trapped by people who claimed to love you while destroying you. If I could help even one person get out, it was worth it. The rest went into investments, and a savings account no one could touch but me. Work flourished. My conference presentation in Chicago was standing room only. My published paper was cited in 3 subsequent studies. Peterson and Associates offered me a partnership track position. Within a year of almost losing everything, I was earning over $200,000 annually. I met Grace at a structural engineering seminar in Portland. She worked for a competing firm and gave a presentation on innovative assessment techniques that challenged some of my published findings. We argued about methodology over coffee afterward. She was brilliant, direct, and didn't care about my family drama when I eventually told her. Families are complicated, she said. Some are worth fighting for. Some are worth fighting to escape. Sounds like you made the right choice. We started dating. 3 months later, I bought a small house in Ballard with a view of the Puget Sound. 2 bedrooms, a garage, a yard. I adopted a rescue dog, a mutt named Atlas, who'd been abandoned by his previous owners. He followed me everywhere, loyal and loving and grateful for a second chance. I was building a life. My life. Full of people who chose to be there, who valued me, who saw me. The final settlement payment arrived on a Tuesday morning in November, exactly 6 months after the agreement was signed. I deposited it and stared at my account balance. $137,416.32. More than I'd had before my mother stole from me. More than enough to feel secure. I was winning. 2 years after I left that key on my mother's kitchen table, I sat on the back deck of my house in Ballard with Atlas at my feet and coffee in my hand. Grace was inside making breakfast. The Seattle skyline glittered in the distance, and the November air was crisp and clean. My phone buzzed. An email from my mother. I'd unblocked her months ago, mostly out of curiosity. She sent occasional messages I rarely opened. This one had no subject line. I opened it. Nicolas, your father and I are downsizing. We're selling the house and moving to a condo in Florida. Amanda and her husband are expecting a baby. I thought you'd want to know. I think about you often and wonder if you're happy. I hope you are. I hope you've found what you were looking for. Maybe someday you'll understand why I did what I did. I was only trying to protect you. Love, Mom. I read it twice, then deleted it. Atlas looked up at me, his tail wagging slowly. I scratched behind his ears. You know what, buddy? I do understand. Now, I understood that my mother would never see me as anything more than an extension of herself, someone to control and manage, rather than respect and support. I understood that Amanda would always be the golden child, not because she was better or more deserving, but because she fit the narrative my parents wanted to tell themselves. I understood that some families are built on love and others are built on obligation, and those two things are not the same. I understood that leaving wasn't running away. It was choosing myself when no one else would. I understood that the people who truly love you don't make you smaller to make themselves feel bigger. They don't steal from you and call it protection. They don't sabotage your dreams and call it concern. I understood that family isn't always blood. It's Marcus, who gave me a place to sleep and money when I had nothing. It's Carol, who fought for me when my job was threatened. It's Miss Whitmore, who helped me fight back. It's Grace, who loves me without conditions. It's Atlas, who gives me loyalty simply because I showed up for him. I understood that my mother's words, "You'll understand when you're older," were meant to shut me up and make me wait for a wisdom that would never come. Because the understanding she wanted me to have was that I should accept being less than, accept being invisible, accept that my needs and feelings and accomplishments didn't matter as much as Amanda's. But I'm 31 now, and I understand something different. I understand that I deserved better, that I always deserved better, that walking away from people who hurt you isn't cruelty, it's survival. I understand that the best revenge isn't hurting the people who hurt you. It's building a life so good they can't touch it. Grace called from inside. Breakfast is ready. I stood, Atlas trotting beside me, and walked toward the smell of bacon and coffee, toward the woman who chose me, toward the home I built with my own hands and my own money and my own choices. My mother wanted me to understand that she knew what was best for me, that her control was love, that her theft was protection, that her sabotage was concern. I understand now. I understand that she was wrong about everything, and I've never been happier. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to walk away from family for your own well-being? How did you find the strength to put yourself first when everyone told you family should come before everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's struggling with the same decision. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they're not alone in their struggles. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We share stories of people who chose themselves, fought back, and won. Stories that remind us that we deserve respect, love, and recognition, even from the people who are supposed to give it freely. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been made to feel invisible. Someone who's been told they're selfish for having boundaries. someone who needs permission to choose themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gave you something to think about, maybe even something to believe in. Remember, understanding comes with age, but not always the understanding others expect. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is knowing when to walk away. Take care of yourselves out there. You deserve it.